Ohio's governor was one of the first to issue a stay at home order, and he says it's too early to lift it, despite promising projections. That is not an easy message to give an uneasy population. Governor Mike DeWine joins us now on Prime Time. And Governor, I want to say thank you for giving the people of Ohio that message. I know it's unpopular, but that's what makes you popular as a leader.
Well, thanks, Chris. First of all, I want to say I'm glad you're doing better, but how in the world am I supposed to follow this act between you and your brother? I mean, seriously, that was one of the best things I've seen on TV in a long time.
Governor, just answer the questions as asked, and we're not going to have a problem. Okay, we're not going to have a problem.
I got it. I got it.
No, listen. Thank you for the nice words. He sends his regards as well. Now, to help people understand, I know that it's easy to criticize you guys after the fact for what you do. And yes, you had the benefit of watching some of the bigger populations deal with it earlier. But when people get sensitive, everybody should have done things sooner. You did things sooner in Ohio, even on the election side. And we'll talk about that more in a second. But what can you tell people about when it was clear to make a call and how tricky it is to make the right call in real time in a situation like this?
Well, first of all, I have a great health director in Dr. Amy Acton, and she had been advising me for some time and following what was going on in China. And she really tied me in with a lot of good people to talk to. We put together a group of doctors from Ohio, about 14 doctors. But the first big decision we had to make was in regard to what's called the Arnold Classic. And it's a big event in Columbus. Arnold comes in, and it's a big sporting event, but it's also like a trade show. 60,000 spectators coming in. And we had to decide, were we going to let that go on? And it was a tough decision because no one had really at that point shut anything down, I don't think, to speak of in the United States. But we looked at it, studied it, 60,000 people from up to 80 countries coming in a relatively small area for 4 days just made absolutely no sense, according to the scientists and the medical community. And so I had a great partner in the mayor, Andy Ginther, and he and I made those decisions, and we said, no, we will allow the event to go on, but we're not going to allow any spectators. That was tough because it disappointed an awful lot of people, and it was a big economic impact for the city of Columbus.
And people could see the economic impact. They couldn't see the pandemic impact at that time. Now that they saw the numbers that came after that, now you have a flattening of the curve. It becomes about persistence and selling people on staying the course. Now, one of the ways you did that was staying even in your approach. So with the election, you were like, listen, I've got to change the election. And the president disagrees with that move. The Supreme Court just agreed with him in the state case of Wisconsin. I know there was a discrete issue there about expanding the date for absentee ballots specifically. But why do you ascribe to the school of thought that moving an election is not undoing an election?
Well, we look at it as continuing the election, which is really what we did. Our plan originally was to push the election back, have an actual in-place voting. That's not eventually what the legislature did. But people still have plenty of time to vote. But I made this decision, and again, that is not an easy decision to make. But I made the decision for a couple of reasons. One, 35,000 poll workers. Many of them, right. I don't know where you vote, but where I vote, if people have been there for a long time and they do it, so they're people who are at very high risk for 13 hours in Ohio being at the polls. But the other thing, it was clear to me that weekend that there were people in Ohio who were really reassessing it. And they had the opportunity before to vote absentee. They hadn't done it because they never do it. Certain people always want to go vote in person. But that Sunday right. or Monday, it was just starting to strike people, hey, this is dangerous. And I remember I talked to a late 70-year-old couple, and they said, look, we just decided, we talked together, we decided we're not going to vote. We always vote, but we're not going to take the chance. So it was clear to me, we were asking people, we were messaging, you should vote, and we were messaging, you should stay home. And it finally struck me, That just doesn't make any sense, and that's not fair,
So
and we're putting people at risk.
the president says that the number one Republican in the country says, here's your mistake, is that you forgot that people cheat with mail-in ballots, and that mail-in voting is rife with fraud. It happens all the time, he says, and that's why you can't risk it. Mail-in voting is a bad thing, and you allowed it, and now you're going to have to pay for that. Why do you disagree?
Well, I don't think he was talking about Ohio, but I don't know
No,
what
no,
goes
no.
on. I
He
can't
has never
speak.
mentioned
Yeah,
Ohio
yeah,
specifically.
yeah,
He's been talking
yeah.
about mail-in voting as a concept that you embraced.
Well, it's something we've done in Ohio for a long time, and we have a very uh, liberal voting in the sense that we have voting for 4 weeks, and we do it every election, and we have early voting. We let people go in actually to the Board of Elections and vote. We let them go in the Sunday before the election, but for 28 days they have a right to go in, and they also can do absentee ballots. So we're used to doing
Right.
that. Frank LaRose, who's our Secretary of State, I have great confidence in him. My lieutenant governor was the previous Secretary of State, John Husted, and they know how to run elections, and we've had a lot of experience in this. So we didn't really worry about any kind of fraud as far as that was concerned.
Well, I certainly haven't seen it in the case law, looking in terms of the precedential value of fraud as a fixture within your election. There's not a lot of case data there to support the concern. Governor Mike DeWine, you are creating a record, though, of accomplishment on this pandemic. I hope your state stays the course. I hope the numbers continue to go down,
Well,
and I wish you a very good future.
good luck to you, Chris. Thank you for having me.
Governor, Governor, thank you. God bless your family.